Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of the Public Management Academy cohort number 9 project presentations. We're going to be starting off our presentations with our friends over at the Rocky River Public Library. We're starting off with a cohort of 3 folks from the Rocky River Public Library. We're going to have we're going to have Molly McGurr-Norris, Chanel Steiner, and Christine Lee. And I'm just really excited to have you all. Thank you so much for your participation and everything you've brought to the cohort. So I'm excited to hear about your presentation. Their topic today is called Email Marketing Segmentation.
Good morning. We're Rocky River Public Library. Did you know that your library card gets you access to over 270,000 titles through the Libby app? Did you know that you can apply for a passport at the library? Did you know that the library has video games available to check out? We're Rocky River Public Library, and our project is connecting with the RRPL community through email marketing segmentation. I'm Christine Lee. I'm the Children's Services Manager, and I'm responsible for programs, services, library materials, and library space for birth through 6th grade, along with my department. Chanel is the Visual Communications Manager. She leads the design staff in making the library's print and online publicity, and she also leads the marketing team and the social media team for the library's marketing efforts. Molly is our training services manager, and she and her department do technology training for both the public and for library staff, as well as running the public computer room. So a little bit about Rocky River. We're a western suburb of Cleveland that borders Lake Erie. Relatively small, it's less than 5 square miles, and our population is about 21,500. Relevant for our project, we have widespread computer ownership with over 91% of households having a computer, and also access to broadband internet at 87.5%. These stats are taken from the census.gov website. For Rocky River Public Library, our mission statement is to cultivate meaningful connections by providing information, inspiration, and a welcoming place for contemplation and community. Our vision statement is leading and innovating through community-based services. So our project interacts with both the mission and vision because we're already providing these services. We're spending taxpayer money on them, and we want to make sure that everyone who could benefit from them knows about them. Our organization is part of CleveNet, which is a group of 47 independent libraries across 12 counties. We share library materials, resources, and expertise. So both our physical library collection of books, but also things like servers and other technology. I did have an organizational chart of the relevant departments. So because we're independent, we have our own board of trustees, our own director, and Chanel reports to the director along with the design department. We have a deputy director who's in charge of our departments that work directly with the public. For the first part of our project, we will be interacting with the adult services department, children's services, and training services. And then if things go well, we hope to expand to our outreach department, teen services, and the Cow and Pottery Museum, which is housed within the library. Our problem is that the library provides unique services and programs that library users or the general community might not be aware of. We do currently do some email marketing, but all of the emails go to the entire list of people on our who have given us their email. And so we have to limit the amount of emails we send because it could get overwhelming for the library users, and the information that's relevant to them would get buried under information that's relevant to other people, but not relevant to them. We conducted a survey about how patrons would like to interact with the library. And one of the things that we found was that there was this big gap for email. So you can see on the left, there's the way people currently find out about library programs. On the right, it's how they would like to find out about library programs. And the third bar down is through an email newsletter, and it has the biggest gap. About 22% would like to or currently find out about library programs through our email newsletter, but 53% would like to. That's a gap of 30%. We did our SWOT analysis. I won't go through all of them, but some of our strengths are that we are inclusive and open to everyone, and most of our offerings are free. Weaknesses are that we have some competition through similar paid services like Audible instead of the library's free Libby or Hoopla offerings. And also that patrons might not be aware of our offerings. There's always those people who say, we don't need libraries anymore because we can just get everything online, when they might not know that we offer hotspots to get them online, or that we can help them find reliable sources. For opportunities, the biggest one is that we can reach our audience through this project through their preferred means of communication, because that's what they indicated on the survey. And also because email is the highest used form of communication online. 95% of adults ages 25 through 44 use email. And even in the 65 and up age group, 85% use it. Those statistics are from market.us, which is a market research firm. And then for threats, we have the cost, both potentially of the software and also of staff time. And then the other threat would be getting staff buy-in, because we will be asking staff to do marketing that maybe don't normally do that as part of their role. Our solution is segmented email marketing. So segmented marketing means sending targeted marketing messages to specific groups based on interests. Instead of sending things to the whole list, we'll be breaking our list into people who are interested in different topics and sending them more information specifically about those topics. So they're getting the information that's most relevant to them through their preferred method of contact. There's an added bonus that email gives the library more control of the message than other social media platforms. So this is sort of the last half of a logic model. Our output for the project is to utilize software to segment RPL's email audience and to send targeted marketing emails to them. The outcome will be to open a direct line of communication to inform patrons of services and library materials that are relevant to them. And then the impact will be increased brand recognition, program attendance, and general use of the library. I'm now going to pass it to Chanel, who will talk about more of the specifics of the product that we chose, how we chose it, and how we'll use it.
So as you saw in our commercial, our tagline is to discover, connect, and engage. And in order to do that, we needed to select a platform that meets a certain level of requirements. And here are our requirements for that chosen platform. Our platform needs to be cost effective. We are publicly funded, so fiscal responsibility is very important to us. Our platform needs to be intuitive. Staff buy-in is also a very important part of this process. So ensuring that our chosen platform is easy to use and easy to train is definitely high on our list. We needed to have an easy setup. We would prefer for our platform to integrate with our library system, our current software. Currently, our integrated library system manages patron records and library materials, and the system also allows patrons to check in and check out items. So our preferred platform should be able to communicate with that system in order to give us data we can use for marketing. The platform needs to be mobile and responsive. Most patrons and most people read emails on a mobile device, so our messages need to be able to read in multiple platforms. And it also needs to be accessible. Accessibility is very important to our organization. We want to make sure that we engage with all of our patrons, and accessibility is extremely important to us. We are committed to that initiative. So we researched several different library platforms or email marketing platforms, some that were created specifically for our industry and others that are specifically created for small business. Those platforms for library specific were Library Aware, Patron Point, and Orange Boy. And then for small businesses, we chose Constant Contact, MailChimp, and Sendinblue. After researching these things, there were so many options available, so we thought it would be a good idea to pare that list down to the top two for us, one from the library industry and one from a small business. And those two platforms that we chose were Patron Point and Constant Contact. So we put together a pros and cons for each of those, and I'll go over those. So we'll begin with Constant Contact. Constant Contact is an easy to set up platform. You can basically just get on, you sign up, you select your membership that you would like, and then you can use it probably within the first day. It's definitely web and mobile friendly and accessible, and it offers many types of templates. They offer segmentation, and they give you really robust and detailed statistics. The cons for Constant Contact is that the price, we have about 12,000 subscribers to our current email list. So for 12,000 subscribers, that would cost us $180 per month, which would total about $2,200 a year for us. The cost is based on the numbers of subscribers. Another con for us is that segmentation is available, but it does not communicate with our integrated library system or our ILS. And customer service issues are well known for Constant Contact. So we're a little nervous that if we were to run into a problem, support may not be available for us. The pros and cons for Patron Point are that the cost is free. Due to our membership to CleveNet, we get this product for free. We also currently use this product, so we're very familiar with it. The system does allow you to view things both mobilely, and they provide us with templates. CleveNet takes care of all of that. They create accessible templates for us that are mobile. And another pro is that the pricing is not based on the number of subscribers. So no matter how many subscribers we have, the cost will always be free for us due to our membership to CleveNet. The cons for this particular platform are that due to our membership to CleveNet, it's on a shared system. So we can view all of the other libraries that are within that system. And as Christine mentioned before, there are 47 libraries. So it can get a little confusing. It's a bit of a complicated setup. So thank goodness CleveNet takes care of these things for us. We don't have to do anything with that. But if we decided to pay for Patron Point on our own, we would be responsible for that. And it could get a little crazy there. CleveNet provides limited training for this. So once you use all of the training that CleveNet provides, you really have to go on your own and learn some things. And also updating and troubleshooting, any add-ons are managed by CleveNet. So if the product offered a new feature, we'd have to wait for CleveNet to decide that it was something they wanted to offer the other libraries before we could utilize that service. And it also gives us limited statistics. They're basic, you get what you need, but it's not as involved as what Constant Contact will provide for you. So after reviewing the pros and cons for those two products, we just decided to stay with Patron Point. We're very familiar with it, and you just can't beat that free cost savings. Also, the interaction with our current software is very important to us. So we did a deep dive into Patron Point, and we wanted to make sure that we were utilizing all of the features, and we found out that we weren't. Patron Point offers segmented welcome emails, so we can create a campaign And basically, I provided a diagram of what that campaign looks like on the back end. So for this particular campaign, the way it will work is once a new user signs up for an email, or I'm sorry, once they sign up for a library card and they select email as their preferred method of communication, the library will automatically begin the campaign. And it starts with a welcome email from the library. And then over a course of 2 weeks, every 4 days, they will receive emails from the Children's Services Department, Adult Services Department, Training Department, and then lastly, there will be an overview of our digital services. Next, Molly will go over specific information about how this particular campaign will work on the user end and also for staff.
All right, so we've done our research and we've selected a product, and that's Patron Point. And now we need to examine how that process works for our users. There's 2 versions of this. There's first our new users, which will get that welcome packet. As Chanel described, they'll opt in when signing up for a new library card. And then within the welcome package, if they can self-identify as being part of that segment, for example, a family with children could opt in to continuing to receive communication from our Children's Services Department through that email. Or established users, those who already have a library card, can opt in on the website on relevant pages. So again, our Children's Services Department's website would have information for opting into communication specifically from that department. So now I would love to show you all a little bit what those welcome emails will look like. We've got our general welcome. This is the first email that our users will see when they sign up for a new library card. The communication is branded and has general information about Rocky River Public Library. And the most important thing about this welcome email is that it matches the look of our monthly all user newsletter. So it's really introducing them to how we're going to communicate with them in the future. After this, the segments become pretty obvious. They do correlate with our current organizational makeup, which makes it easy for us to get started with what we consider to be our largest segments. So here we have an example of what the Children's Services targeted welcome email will look like. This market segment focuses on community members birth through 12 years of age and their caregivers. There are approximately 4,000-ish community members of this age range in Rocky River, plus their caregivers. The next email that they will receive is the Adult Services email. This market segment focuses on teens 12 years and older and adults. And there are roughly 18,000 community members of this age range in Rocky River. Then we have the Training Services email. This market segment focuses on adults seeking digital literacy training and those in the community without access to technology. There are approximately 9,000 households in Rocky River with 1 or more types of computing devices. So those are our folks seeking digital literacy training. And then there are approximately just under 1,000 households in Rocky River that do not have internet service. So those are our folks without access to technology. And then the last email that they'll receive is a welcome to our digital services. This market segment focuses on users who primarily or exclusively use the digital resources offered by Rocky River Public Library. So that means they may never come to the building or even live in Rocky River. In just 2022 alone, so without December included, library users have downloaded over 100,000 items across 3 platforms. That's Overdrive, Hoopla, and Canopy. So in order to have a consistent look and make it easy as possible on staff to create future email communications, we have created banners that will be included in the templates that our staff will find in the Patron Point product. So they do not have to create this every time, and our users know exactly what to expect out of the emails. And they follow our branding guidelines, which helps build our reputation in the community. So now that we know what the product looks like, we have to figure out how exactly the staff is going to provide this service and communication. So there is an internal procedure that we've created that describes the purpose of email marketing for the library, what staff will be designated to create email marketing communications, and staff training, guidelines, and how to propose additional segments. So on the screen, you'll see just a snapshot of some of our internal procedure that includes the voice and tone of the library, which are very important so that despite having these communications come from different departments and different staff members, they all sound the same and are consistent. One of the keys to success for this project is staff training. We can't simply put the product out there and expect that everybody in the library will know how to use it or be able to figure out how to use it on their own. So we will be conducting staff training. That will include patron training on the Patron Point product, training on library branding, training on email guidelines, specifically as they will be for email communications, and how to propose new segments. The staff training will be conducted jointly by members of the marketing team and designated training services staff trainers. And this will have to be completed before somebody could start communicating with our patrons in email. So just some highlights of what that training will include is the email guidelines that I mentioned before. We have clear parameters that really set our staff up for success. And don't leave any questions of how to communicate effectively via email. So with this training paired with consistent use of the branding guidelines, we hope that we will have a cohesive voice that our patrons look forward to getting in their email. And as we move into how to expand this project into additional segments, we have discussed how our staff can identify and request more email segments for our community. So once a staff member has identified a segment, they can submit a request for a new market segment along with their supporting documentation to the marketing team. The marketing team will then review that information, and if they deem it as a viable segment, they will go through the steps to have CleveNet set up a new segment, and they'll also create the templates for that new segment. So some potential additional segments that we could move into are teens and their caregivers, cow and pottery museum users, and populations served by outreach. And that is what we have for you, but we are happy to answer any of your questions. We thank you for watching and being engaged with us.
Great project. That was fantastic. You know, I just want to say you can tell that it was done from librarians because it was very well organized. And I also love the fact that you embedded all the tools from the class. So that was really cool. I love this. We are using a lot of things, like we use MailChimp here to do a lot of our newsletters, but I think that is such an important part. Like we forget about, we get stuck into what we do on a daily basis, but if no one knows or hears or is even aware what we're doing, it's kind of hard to kind of continue to excel. And I believe, you know, I've seen a lot of projects from libraries and talking to some of the leadership, especially at Cuyahoga County Library, where they're talking about like reintroducing themselves to the community. Like it's not the same old library that it used to be. So I just want to say thank you for taking a different approach and you know, being in contact and finding ways to continue to market and expand your services. I had a couple questions before we go over to Alexandra. Question number one was, how is the other staff, you know, that are going to be involved? What's their take on things? Are they receptive to this idea? Is there any pushback? Are they excited? Give me some idea of how the rest of the team feels about this.
Sure. So I actually recently talked with the adult services manager, and she's very interested in it because she sees that we are collecting these emails and maybe not getting the most use out of them as far as making sure people know about all of our new books and also all of the adult services programs. We have very strong adult services programs. So that was good to hear. And then I'm excited for my department because it's a bit disjointed the way we communicate now. And so making sure that people are really everyone's finding out the same information at the same time would be great.
And also, we currently send out a monthly email and we receive information from each of the departments now. So they're already a part of the process. This would just be more involved and individualized for their separate departments. So they're very excited to get started.
So you mentioned that there's gonna be like designated training members of the team that are gonna do this. Do they volunteer for this extra assignment? Were they voluntold? Were they mandated? Like, what's the selection process? And the reason why I ask is not that it's burdensome, but like, my point is, I'm not a communication specialist. Alexandra on our team does our marketing, and so we talk about what we want to present, but she's the one that puts it together to make sure that it's an appealing finished product. So how does that work as far as who gets selected to do it?
It's actually part of most of the managerial job descriptions to promote the services, collections, and programs from their department. So it's already part of our duties. This is just a tool for us to do it. And then there are supervisors in the 3 front-facing departments. So that's training services, adult services, and children's. And that person is also tapped as somebody who can help with marketing of the department. So it's already sort of built into our organization, which is great and easy for us then.
And then I have one last question before I pass the baton to Alexandra, and that is, so when each department crafts their message, is there a vetting or review, or does it have to go through like an editorial process before it actually gets sent out to the community?
I'm going to let Chanel answer that.
So because we're training them on how to properly compose their emails, I can set up a process where I vet all of the emails. It would slow down the process, but we can make that a part of the procedure if we find it necessary.
We hope staff training will just head off the issue. If we just teach everybody how to do it and give them clear expectations, we feel confident that everybody will be able to follow that.
Also, that will happen in the proofing stage of the emails. We never send an email without proofreading them, and our proofreading process happens across the department. So if something were inside of an email that the library, we deemed it inappropriate, we would catch it in the proofing stage, and then we would correct that and before we send it out.
Perfect. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to pass the baton over to Alexandra. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Well, first of all, fantastic presentation. And I know I am super biased, but I think that this is such an important project. And sometimes I feel like these efforts sometimes get overlooked by organizations. So I think it's really great that you have, staff support and buy-in to devote some time to this. And from a selfish standpoint, I'm curious to hear how it all goes. So please keep us updated and informed, and feel free to share any best practices too. Okay, so I do have some questions in the chat, and some of them you might have already answered, but maybe we can just kind of clarify some things too, since the questions are there. So Ray, one of our OCPM advisory board members, put in a couple questions in the chat. So obviously, you talked about staff training. He wants to know a little bit about, first of all, what do you envision for the training? So is it in person? Is it on demand? Do you think like during the training process, you're going to hire some new employees, or are you just going to train your current staff and maybe shuffle some positions around? So talk to us a little bit about what that is going to look like specifically.
That's a great question. I'm excited to answer it because that's my job, is staff training. So currently we run staff training on a trimester schedule, which happens to coincide with our public programming schedule. So 3 times a year, I put out a staff training schedule and designate if it is an required training for all staff or perhaps a certain part of our staff. So once we get this set up, the training will be scheduled for the appropriate time period, and I will designate which staff must attend. And then from there, usually how we handle training is if we notice a group of new hires is coming in sort of all at one time, we can add it to the calendar again. And that gives an opportunity for staff who've already had it to return. If we just notice that there is one staff member who is a new hire and needs that training, we will just set up training specifically for them. And to answer the question of in-person versus virtual, we are lucky to have an entire high-tech training room where I can give presentations and our other staff trainers, and we can use it for programs as well. So we have the ability to get together in person in that wonderful room and do the training there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So one of your classmates, Kristen, says, great presentation, ladies. I love the branded banners and the email headers. The slide after the voice info was interesting. Would you be open to sharing your slides after? I would love to share this as a reference with some of our communication staff.
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, yeah, and that was Kristen Hall. And so if you need for us to help connect you, we will go ahead and make that happen. Okay, so we do have, it looks like, a couple more questions in the Q&A box. So Mallory asks, is there a way to opt in or out of certain emails, like if you just want the children's services or if you just want adults?
You want me to answer?
Go ahead.
So when we're sending out those individual messages or the messages that will be sent out from Patron Point during that 2-week process, there will be a button at the bottom of those emails that allow you to subscribe. So if you subscribe to those, you will be placed into a list that we are going to curate, and then we will specifically send messages out to people who subscribe to that particular list from their individual email.
So there's a slight difference between opting into email communication from the library and opting into a segment that we've created.
Right.
So when you sign up with your library card and declare that you would like to be communicated with via email, you'll also get information about your holds or overdues, things like that. But you specifically choose to be part of a segment, and you could unsubscribe from that as well.
Exactly.
Great. So we only have really a couple minutes left, so I'm going to try to speed through these questions. Courtney asks, can you clarify why Rocky River Public Library is not part of the Cuyahoga County Public Library and why CleveNet was chosen? And I'm sure a lot of people have the same question as well, and I'm sure you get this question like all the time.
Sure. So it has to do with the history of the library and how they were established. And because we are an independent library and our community supports us through levies, we find that we've had a lot of benefits. And then CleveNet gives us a lot of added benefits, but it allows us to still be independent.
Cuyahoga County Library is a separate system from ours. We're independent. So as Christine said, in 1926, money was specifically donated to from a community member in Rocky River for an independent library specifically for Rocky River. So $25,000 was set aside, land was purchased, and this library was created or built specifically for the members of Rocky River. We are independent, we are separate from Cuyahoga County, even though we are in Cuyahoga County. That is a separate library system, and they have it in a different board. They have different, as we said in the beginning, they have a different director, board of trustees. All of that is a separate entity from Rocky River Public Library. CleveNet allows us to share materials with a library in a different system. So that's why we wanted the benefit of joining CleveNet. We wanted to be able to interact with them, but still do things our way and remain independent.
Excellent. Great. So I'm going to try to combine the last two questions. And then we have a fair amount of comments too, just all really positive stuff. So I won't go through all of those, but I will make those visible. So I'm going to combine Kat's question with Mayor Gallagher's question. So two parts here, kind of the same theme. Just curious, but with so many new emails going out, do you have a plan to track unsubscribers that may be overwhelmed with so many emails? So that's coming from Kat. And then kind of in the same vein, Mayor Gallagher says, I feel like I get so many emails. If I were to opt into a certain segment, is there a way to limit how many emails coming per week or month, or maybe just opt into a month to review that particular segment? So talk a little bit about all of that.
So the way that, okay, so this is two parts. One, in the statistics, you get a list of unsubscribers that is provided to us. And currently Patron Points places those unsubscribers in a separate category. So once they hit that unsubscribe button, they no longer receive any emails from us. As far as Patron Point, our email newsletters and all of that, but they will still, because they've designated email communication, if they need to know that their book is due, they'll still receive those sort of emails. So they can unsubscribe from our newsletters, but they continue to receive the information from our ILS. I can't remember the second part of that question.
How frequently they happen. So
How frequently? Okay.
Yeah.
So frequently, sorry. Currently, we send a monthly email, and then once we get this up and running, we can decide, the individual departments can decide how they want to distribute those emails. And a part of the training that will cover a part of the training, we don't want to overwhelm our patrons with our message. We want to engage with them. So if we find that we're sending too many emails and people are unsubscribing left and right, we'll have to reassess our process and then decide what to do after that.
And the good news is there is market research on this, specifically from libraries and that already participate in email marketing. So there are some best practices that we will also teach in training about how often to send communications and not overwhelm our patrons. And the other thing is that we have to keep in mind that they've asked to be communicated with this way. So we're really excited to actually just give them what they want and how they want to hear from us.
To more directly, I think what Mayor Gallagher was mentioning about sometimes you do have the option of saying, I want to hear from this company once a month or once a week or daily. We don't currently have that option. So just to answer that, we can't do that right now.
And also when you first sign up and you're a new user and you get those welcome emails, that's a one-time thing. We're only trying to introduce or highlight the benefits of each department. And then once you subscribe to the emails that you specifically want, you'll no longer receive emails from children's if you're interested in adult, or training if you're interested in children's. So you won't hear from those other departments again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we are actually over time. So I will turn it back to Rob, and thank you so much for your project and wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great job, Rocky River. Keep up with the good work. Well, I want to bring up our next presenter, Ivan Sullivan from the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. He is going to talk to us today about improving safety with electronics, and talked about the fact of installing cameras, using real-time kind of feedback and information so that they can help provide better service and then respond to any issues that might occur throughout the entire system. And he has been responsible for putting in this technology across many of their different rail and trains and buses and things like that. So kind of interested and excited to hear more about what they're doing and how that's going to benefit the organization. So Ivan, if you're ready to rock and roll.
My name is Ivan Sullivan, and I work for GCRTA. And my project is to improve safety with electronics. I'll be talking about my experience. Okay. Now, I worked for RTA for 15 years. I started out 2007 as a bus operator. At this time, RTA revenue vehicle were not equipped with a camera system. When an accident or incident happened, it was hard to prove. Now, proof alone can provide those investigating the event with real-time callback and all the facts in the case. Now, 2008, RTA decided to add this system a new vehicle they purchased. Now, around that time, I was excited because as an operator, this system, when an incident happened or accident, it was my word against theirs. While working as an operator, I obtained my credentials in electronics. Then I joined the electronic repair department, which we maintain all the revenue equipment. Now, this includes installation, radio communication, destination signs, the camera system, vehicle fare boxes, along with ticket validating machines and customer service kiosks. Now, validating machines and customer service kiosks are machines that you validate and purchase fare cards. Now, these machines are located on all rapid stations, Tower City, and along Euclid Corridor. Now, current technology, all RTA revenue vehicles have onboard recording system equipped with Apollo DVRs. Now, as you can see in the picture below, this is an example on how our camera system are equipped. Each vehicle is equipped with 8 cameras, a DVR, and a router. Now, the cameras are located 3 in the outside and 5 in the inside. The outside cameras is 1 in the rear, 1 in the curb side, and 1 in the street side. Now, the inside cameras, 1 is facing out of the windshield, 2 in the middle aisle, 1 facing the front door, 1 the rear door. Now, the DVR and router is located inside the radio cabinet behind the operator seat. Okay, next slide. Now, these systems are installed to monitor safety-related incidents and accidents. Now, for example, in case of an incident, somebody falls in the bus or has an argument with operator about paying their fare, or in case of an accident, collision with vehicle, fixed objects, bikes, or even pedestrians. The camera will gather evidence information for police officers. It will tell who is at fault. Now, accidents and incidents can lead to legal action. One of the worst fears of any business is being sued. Now, by having video evidence, the company can prove what actually happened. This will help court proceedings go quicker and smoother. Next slide. Now, we do conduct a monthly maintenance PM. So what that is, we look to make sure our camera system are working properly. Now, this includes time, date, and recording. In the process for this, we physically board the vehicle and connect the cable between the DVR and the portable computer. However, in between the scheduled maintenance, we have found issues with the camera system going out. Now, for example, there's been times when management have requested a video download. And when we downloaded the video, we found that the footage they needed from that specific camera, that camera was out. And if the camera goes out, we lose safety-related information. Okay, next slide. So we wanted to identify Manager Chris Weil and Supervisor Dan Ersel wanted to identify ways to improve our camera system to avoid these type of issues in the future. Now, after discussion with Apollo, we took advantage of the free software that was offering called RSM. Now, RSM is Remote System Management. Now, we learned that we can use RSM remotely to access any vehicle DVR over the cellular network. Now, RSM has two great benefits that will improve our camera system. Next slide. And these are the two benefits. Now, receiving real-time notification of equipment failures. Now, by doing so, we can complete repair time within a day instead of waiting to find an issue at a monthly maintenance interval. And benefit number two, allowing to see live camera views remotely will improve safety of operators and customers. Now, this will be only used for emergency situations and COVID alarms. Next slide. Now, with this new system, we also going to be running an hourly report to monitor those equipment failures. Now, as you can see in the top picture, if a camera goes out, it will send a notification of the vehicle and what camera went out. Once we receive that information, we'll repair the camera immediately. And in the bottom picture, when you access the live camera view remotely, you can see the inside, the outside, and location of vehicle. Now, for example, when transit police is responding to an emergency situation, they can see important information and detail before arriving to the scene and location of vehicle. All right, next slide. Now, my role in this project is learn, lead, and conduct. Learn the software manual and equipment testing. Lead the network installation and DVR configuration. And conduct training for electronic repair technicians. Now, out of 319 buses and 67 rail cars that we needed to install this new system, we have completed installation at all buses and 50 rail cars. Okay, next slide. Now, this is the installation process. We first connect the Ethernet cable between the DVR and router. Then we reconfigure the DVR by adding a specific vehicle number and change the gateway IP. Now, we collaborated with Intelligent Transportation System to update firewall and network access. Also add coach-specific VPN IP to allow connectivity. Okay. Thank you. Now, people that will have access to the system will be electronic repair department to monitor these equipment failures. Security service, they are the one that manage and approve the request process. So if somebody requests a video download, they're the one that review and approve that request. And transit police to respond to emergency calls and COVID alarms. Now, at this point, electronic repair department is the only one having access to this system. As with any project review, we do have future goals to include all the departments. While working with our older system, we couldn't tell when the camera went out. It could have been a day from the time we conducted a monthly maintenance PM. Now, we have been operating under our new system over the past few months. Since then, we have reduced maintenance repair time up to 28 days due to immediate notification from our camera system versus how we previously operated. Now, to recap my project, we have found many ways to improve safety through our electronics. Now, we began with vendor discussions and research to identify RSM. Then we learned the benefits, which are improve equipment repair time up to 28 days. Use a live camera view when needed for emergency situations and covert alarms. Now, covert alarm is a button located next to the operator seat. It's connected to police dispatch and will display a 911 in the destination. Now, this is only used for life-threatening situations, like a shooting on a bus. Now, situations like this, by utilizing live camera views, police officers can see if that person is still in the vehicle, if they fled the scene, what direction did they go, if anybody hurt inside the vehicle, or if anybody in need of medical attention. That information in detail police officers can see before arriving to the scene. And continuous improvement of the system. Now, we are working on implementing to our new system wireless video downloads. Now, this will cut down on hours of technician labor. Also, will speed up the video request process. Now, the video request process, you have to fill out a request form and submit it to security service. Once they review and approve the request, they notify electronic repair technician to download the video. Once the video is downloaded, security service then retrieve the video and send to who requested it. Now, this process usually takes a couple of days. But by utilizing wireless video download, you can download video immediately. I'm gonna say I'm grateful and proud to be part of this project. And this project has been a huge success due to collaboration from multiple departments. And our goal to share, improve, and our shared goal is to improve safety. Now, our goal is to complete installation by the end of the year. Any questions?
Thank you, Ivan. Great job. I would first of all want to say I really give you a lot of credit. You did a lot of work on obviously the actual project itself, but also put a lot of time and energy into the presentation and getting ready for today. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything you've done. I'm a huge fan of technology, especially for the fact of, there's things going on where there's not enough people as far as safety is concerned or issues that happen in our society. And I think that the idea of having more cameras and more connectivity is obviously always a good thing. My question is, you mentioned that there's the option of this crisis communication or live interaction. Have you had to use that function yet? Has there been an episode where you've actually had to use the live camera feed or not yet?
No, not yet. Like I said, this is fairly new. We haven't yet used the live camera views. It is active. It's very important, especially to me. I mean, that's one of my best features of this whole project, as far as for safety issues and stuff like that. But no, we haven't yet. To answer your question, but it is active, and I'm excited to people use it, especially transit police. I say it's a good feature for transit police, especially for covert alarms and emergency calls.
I just have a suggestion. I wonder, or I don't know if this would be an option, but I wonder if there's any kind of training. I mean, I know obviously there's the technician part, and then there's the people that are inside the command center. But haven't been any thought about transit police doing any type of scenarios or training to use this technology and how to make sure that they're using it properly or getting great views or different things like that? Has that been part of the
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had talked about that, and again, in the future, and our future goals is to include all the departments, especially transit police and security service, and there will be some type of training and how to use it and how you go about it, and that will be in the near future for sure. And we, in fact, The manager and I just spoke about this a few weeks back, about including all the departments and training them how to use the system and having access to it.
Yeah, I had just one more question. I'm going to pass the baton over to Alexandra then, and that is, you mentioned the bus and the rail, as far as which vehicles were getting it. Is there any kind of paratransit buses that are going to get it, or any other, like, you know, your smaller vehicles that you transport people, will they get that as
Yes,
well?
we did have this conversation, pair transit. We are going to be working on implementing the RSM in the pair transit. We cannot do it at this point because they got smaller routers. And you have to have the bigger router MG90 because you got to plug in so many different devices into it with the Ethernet port. So it's not going to, the router that they have is a smaller version of it. But we are thinking about, once this is said and done, probably by the end of the year, beginning next year, start working in the pair transit for sure.
Great. Okay, well, excellent. I'm going to pass it over to Alexandra for comments and feedback. So take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Hi again, Ivan. So I just want to reiterate to what Rob said. I really applaud you for the time and effort that you put into this project. You know, just throughout the whole process. I remember talking to you months ago when you first started the Academy, and it's just been so great to see, you know, all of your efforts kind of come together. And I also want to give you a shout out too for being like the most conscientious student. Because I know you were always calling and emailing after classes just to like verify, like, oh, like, was I supposed to do this assignment? So thank you so much for just your active participation and just being a great asset to this cohort. So we do have some questions coming through. So Chief Jones asks a couple questions. So I'm going to start with two and let you answer and then come back and ask the third. So the first two questions from Chief Jones are, will the software be compatible with transit police dispatcher software? Will the dispatchers be able to monitor the videos on the bus?
Yes, it will be correct. Absolutely. To answer that question, yes. And again, we're working on that process right now, but it will be yes.
Excellent. And Chief Jones also states and asks, there was a shooting on one of the buses earlier this year. How is this new system different from the video that was used by transit police to view the incident?
Well, the difference about the live camera view versus the video, the live camera view is more so alive at the moment you see what's going on prior from arriving to the scene. You know, a lot of time when an operator, let's say they hit the covert alarm, it immediately connects to the police dispatch. And with the live camera views, by having access to it, they can see immediately, once they get that response and that call, they can see immediately what's going on inside the vehicle. As opposed to what we have now prior from the system, from the live camera views, you have to go ahead and retrieve that video. But this is more so the live camera view at the moment, what you're seeing as it's going on at the moment, at the present moment, versus after the fact, which is very useful because a lot of times when you ask the live camera view for something like that, like a shooting on the bus, you can see, like I mentioned before, if the shooter's still on the bus, did they fled the scene, what direction did they go, were they driving, what vehicle were they driving, if anybody in need of medical attention, they can see all those detailed information before arriving to the scene.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So Ray asks two questions. How much manpower is needed to view the hourly reports? And what's being evaluated on these reports?
It's going to be manpower is only one person. That as far as reviewing the hourly report. And what was the other question was?
Yeah, so the second part was what's being evaluated on these reports?
So Okay, so the way this works in this report, what happens is all we look for is the outages of the camera. So once if the malfunction of the camera. So if a bus out there and the camera goes out, it immediately send that notification and to the hourly report of what vehicle, what camera went out. Then we immediately repair the camera. So versus before, we didn't have that system. As when we did our PM, the camera could have been out and we wouldn't notice until we did the follow up monthly maintenance PM. So what we look for is outages, malfunction of the cameras. That way we can catch it immediately and repair those cameras immediately, as opposed to wait. And that was one of our main concern and the safety issue that we had, because if the camera goes out and anything happened and we don't know about it, when you download that footage and the camera's out, we use that safety related, that information.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask 2 more questions. And I also just want to acknowledge that you did receive some kudos in the chat too. So make sure you take a moment to read that positive feedback at some point. So Robinette asks, and this is a great question because I'm not sure if I heard this covered either. What happens if the system goes down? Is there a backup system?
Well, that's a good question. This system is ran by the cellular network. So as with anything, it could go down just like anything else. There is no backup to it right now, and that's a good question. That's something that we really need to look into it. But great question. But as of right now, it's been a huge success. Yeah, it's a good question. Now, so we're gonna look into it to maybe have some type of backup, but so far so good that we haven't had no issues yet.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point too. And that's the thing about these projects. I mean, even though a project might be done, it really is never completed, right?
Absolutely.
And so we always want to make sure that we're analyzing to see what could be better and figuring out those continuous improvements. So that's also something too that you can maybe even put into your paper for future consideration. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm going to take that question for sure because that's a great question.
Great. So our last question comes from Christine. She says, great job. This sounds like a lot of work. Did you have any feedback from drivers or other RTA employees about the new security system?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of drivers give me a lot of good feedback. They like the system due to the fact it's always running, that they don't have to. A lot of times when you get into an accident or incident, you have to, if the camera's not working, it's your work, it's theirs. And also directors of the Trisket garages and stuff like that, they absolutely likes it. And we be having good feedback with several people, different departments.
Excellent. Well, thank you for answering those questions. And that is all our time today. So I will turn it back to Rob.
Thank you.
Just want to give you more kudos with everybody else. Thanks you for all your hard work and in PMA and for this project. And I know that the RTA is dedicated to providing us a safe, on time and enjoyable ride. And this is going to be a key part of it moving forward. So congratulations and well done, and keep us posted on your progress. And thanks a lot for everything.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, guys.
Happy holidays. Well, great. As we transition to our next presenter, I just want to give a quick shout out. I scanned the crowd and I noticed that we have a couple other advisory board members that were joining us today. So I want to give a quick shout out to them. Lamont Dotson, Chief Dotson was here from the CMSD. I also see Professor Jeffrey Bowen from Cleveland State University. So quick shout out to him. And then obviously Alexandra already mentioned Ray Justice from the Ohio Department of Administrative Services. So thank you y'all for coming. Just want to also give a quick shout out. I see a few members of our PMA number 10 in the house today. So Mike and Taja, and let's see if there's anybody else here. Adrian, I believe. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for coming and joining us. Thank you for the support. Really enjoy sharing these projects with the community, and please come back for more. Without further ado, we're going to pass the baton over to our next presenter, and I'm excited to introduce Miss Allison Urban. She is over at the City of Solon, Solon Community Center for the Arts. And the topic of her presentation today is restoring the arts. And she has an analysis for more creative connectivity and also collaboration in the community to provide for better programs and services moving forward. So Allison, if you're there, if you can join the screen and pull up your presentation, you can take it away. So good morning, Allison. How are you?
Good morning. How is everyone? Thanks for joining today.
Thank you. So I see your Canva up there. Just gotta hit the presentation. You can rock and roll.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Go for it.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Allison Urban. I work for the City of Solon, specifically for Solon Center for the Arts. I am the dance department coordinator, and with that, I have many responsibilities, such as scheduling all the dance programs, coming up with them. We have our annual dance recitals that I'm in charge of. In addition to, I run a after-school program for kindergartners. I do all of the art center's purchasing, and I play a big role in our social media. So that's a little bit about me. And today I will be presenting my project, Restoring the Arts Through the City. It's a collective analysis for more creativity, connection, and collaboration in the community. So as I said, I'm a part of the City of Solon. We are located in Ohio in Cuyahoga County. And through the city, we are actually city funded through taxpayer dollars, which is a very big blessing as an art center, as you do not see that in many cities. Usually when you see the arts presented through either a recreation center, it's usually an outside vendor, a nonprofit, or another organization, or linked together with schools. So Solon is blessed to have the art center. We have 4 main disciplines that we have there. We host visual arts, so that's all your art classes with drawing, painting, and that sort. We offer theater classes, which do theater productions as well. We do music, which is private lessons or group lessons, and then obviously dance. And then overall in the Art Center, we also do community events, some pertaining specifically to some of the arts, and some more that are generalized that we are working with other departments throughout the city, such as our farmers market or our home days, our fall festivals, or even some of our markets like our hometown holiday market. Right before the pandemic, the city went ahead and started a rebrand. So during the pandemic, this kind of all came forward here. And they just went through, and as the city, they went through their mission, their vision, and their core values. They took a look of where the city is now and where we're looking to grow. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the aspects that we reinstated in 2020. With the vision first, with more opportunity, that's educational, career, and service opportunities are available to all. That's a very important aspect here as we offer educational programs, careers, and service opportunities in our building directly. So in having that accessibility to all is quite important, because that is really engaging our full community. We're always looking for rooms for growth. We welcome more people and businesses to support our thriving economy. working hand in hand with businesses and people to see the common growth throughout our city. And diversity, we are proud of our diversity and embrace our differences. Something in the arts program that is very special is a lot of the culture that we can create and share through the arts. Another aspect that I wanted to take a look at is some of these core values. As you are looking through these, you can see that there's a lot of words that are standing out, like embracing diversity and inclusion, open and transparent communication, highest level of customer service, and things of that sort that really are highlighted towards our community and towards what the Art Center is. As we went through rebranding in 2020, the Art Center was involved in an umbrella of what we called leisure activities throughout the city. That included Grantwood Golf Course, which is our city-owned golf course, Solon Center for the Arts, our Solon Recreation Department, which includes our facilities, our parks, and then the Solon Senior Center specifically with programming for those in our community in the senior age range. Now, during this rebranding, they decided to take this leisure activities and we all were split up into our own departments. So leading from there, Solon Center for the Arts kind of became its own little entity throughout the city. But of course, we do work closely still with the Solon Recreation Department, Solon Senior Center, and Grantwood Golf Course. Now, something exciting about this year in particular is Solon Center for the Arts is celebrating 20 years. So as you can see, I couldn't get through a PowerPoint presentation without including some pictures highlighting of what we do, our music classes, our art classes, dance and theater, and a picture of our building as it was being restored. At one point in time, it was a fire station, a police station. It was also our city hall. So it went a lot of transformations to make it now an art center that includes music rooms, art rooms, a gallery, a theater, and where all of our offices are located for our coordinators. Now, with celebrating 20 years, we're reflecting back and seeing how the community has changed in 20 years. Now, if we learned anything from COVID, we can understand that a lot changes in even a short period of time. With that, we're realizing that some of our programming or what we do here at Solon Center for the Arts needs a little restoration, which leads me to my program of how can we restore the arts. Now, some of the words that really hit from our rebranding from 2020 and ways that we can restore the arts that came to mind were community, connection, collaboration, creativity, inclusivity, and culture. Taking the city's core values and really making them our own to connect better with the community. I was able to narrow it down to 3 steps for restoration. The first one being the community. As we are a community-based entity, we want to make sure that we are really serving those in our community. And then number 2 is connection, finding the ways that we can connect with the community. There's lots of different ways that we can connect. And creativity. How can we connect the community and create either programs or events, or even just being there as a support for them? As we dig a little bit deeper, we realize that some key factors in making these steps. In the community, we're looking for communication. We're looking for their feedback, but they're also looking for information from us. Number 2 is connection. We're looking for that engagement, that buy-in, where someone can come and they could provide us with their ideas and they have ownership or empowerment in seeing what they're really hoping for and their interests are being valued by what we do. And number 3 is creativity. We're looking for that collaboration. We're looking for those new ideas. It's so easy to go back to what we're used to, knowing what works, but it's also fun creating that new program or that new event that really makes more people come to the Art Center or hear about us or feel like they're actually involved in the process of it. As I stated, the first step is community, and communication is key. As we go through the city of Solon, we realize that our community is one of the greatest things that we have, and coming together in communication is so important. And how to achieve better communication with our community. The city of Solon has approximately 24,223 people in the city. Now, personally in my department, I have about 160 families or dance students that I deal with on a regular basis. And in the Art Center attendees, we have approximately 540 families that we're in touch with on a weekly basis. Comparing those numbers to our population, as you can see, there's a huge difference. So how do we have better communication with our community? Not only that they can learn more about us, but we can provide them with the most up-to-date information about what is going on at the Art Center. Recently, we took a survey at just one of our special events that we were holding. It was a winter dance showcase, and there was 144 attendees that came. And the answers were very basic and focused on the communication aspect. One of the questions that we asked is, how did they find information about us or who we are? And the first one was a lot of word of mouth or recommendation. The second one was searched internet. The third one was social media. Fourth was newspaper and catalog, and fifth was email. So taking a look back at that, it really shows that our community is reaching out to each other for those recommendations, really relying on the internet sources and that social media aspect. Now, the newspaper we rely on when we need the press releases or they contact us. And the catalog aspect is we used to send catalogs out tri-annually. So where everyone would get information about our leisure activities. So that's the rec center, the senior center, the art center, and Grantwood Golf Course, with all of our programmings and events happening for those 4 months. And then email. The city does have a citywide email blast that they send out monthly, where that communication is. And then we also asked how they want to be contacted. That is really important for us as we start this process and reaching out to the community. We want to make sure that we are establishing that connection immediately. So some of the answers that we received from the survey were emails, direct communication, so that's in-person connections, video conferences, instant direct or text message, and social media. So with that, obviously we saw some crossovers to how to get information. For instance, the number one way for them, they would prefer to get information would be through emails, and not only for their information, but to be contacted as well. And then another one we see here is a social media, where it was their number 3 to get information and number 5 on the top 5 of how to receive information. So taking a look at the survey and reflecting back on what Solon Center for the Arts does, these are the following things that we do to communicate what's going on. We do emails. And when I say emails, it's more so of a one-on-one or specific group that we pull emails from our database, where people register through our system. Phone calls where we obtain the phone numbers from the email system. Again, that's very specific to what programming we do. We still do a lot of print, so a lot of flyers, a lot of posters, which we set up at our location at the Art Center. We do have an annex location of the dance studios where those are posted. And then we also like to share them with other locations throughout the city, such as City Hall, the Senior Center, and the Solon Recreation. We are on social media. As you can see, we are on Facebook and we are on Instagram. Now we provide several posts of what we're doing in regards to our programming and our events on both of those. And then, as previously stated, we do offer press releases to the newspaper to kind of get the word out if we have an upcoming event coming. And then I reflected back on the available communications that are popular right now, email and e-blast, phone calls, texting, flyers, and posters, social media. And as you can see, social media has Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube as the most popular ones. Press releases in newspapers, local magazines, podcasts, and then advertising through local groups and or on the radio. As comparing back, you can see where some of ours are similar, where some of them we are kind of missing the boat or have yet to dip our toe in the water with. But as we take a look through these, we can see that some of them might be a little less in a alignment for what we do, but others that we can see that might go in line with what we do. So connection, engagement is commitment. When we have buy-in from our community, we feel they're invested in what we do, or interested, they want to be a part of those things. So the first thing we have to do is start these conversations. We have to start reaching out to our community and getting the word out is that we want to help them as much as we can, as we are here to serve them. We're offering that space to share as a physical location, and then also opening that communication up for them to feel like they can call us or they can stop in and provide some information to us or share what they're thinking. And just having opportunities for them to be a part of what we're doing. So if someone has a true interest in one of our programs, offering those volunteer opportunities, or if they don't want to be there on the front line, but they want to help in other ways, there's also sponsorship opportunities where it could be monetary, it could be that they donate a gift card to be a part of our event, things of that sort. And also grant opportunities. I know, for instance, we just started working with the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities to provide more programming for adults with disabilities through the arts. And I also know that Key Bank is one of our big supporters, as they like to provide grants to lots of arts organizations. But connecting Solon means all of Solon. So businesses, that means small and local businesses and corporate businesses, having those conversations or connecting through email or having those video conferences, just seeing what the businesses do in our city, how we can possibly collaborate, what they're looking for from an art center standpoint. Some organizations like nonprofits, community groups, local churches, other local clubs such as Key Club or the Italian American Club, VFWs. Recently, we started a collaboration with one of our community groups. It's Solon Early Childhood PTA, where we're offering field trips once a month. Also schools, all schools, private and public, we have both in the city of Solon, and we have a lot of preschools, so bringing them all together. And then obviously the city employees. Some of the city employees do work and live in Solon, but also some of them don't, but we are an inclusive art center. So even if you don't live in Solon, you can still participate in our programs. And step 3 would be the creativity. Collaboration is purpose. So taking our ideas and brainstorming together to come up to see what we can provide our community with. So working together in our shared goals. So interests in possibly a specific discipline, a program, or more or less things. So if someone's really into music and they're looking for possibly a community orchestra, that would be something that we would like to hear and see how we can work together and find that shared goals. Also, if we're really focusing on, let's say, preschool programming during the daytime, but the community is saying, you know, our preschoolers are in preschool during that time. So we would really benefit for more evening classes or family-oriented classes where we can join all together. So really hearing what they need Events, if people are looking for more outdoor theater events where we could provide that opportunity, or different ways that it can be multi-generational, where people of all ages could come together. So just really finding where the interest is of the community and trying to match them with staying true to who we are. And then that's also reflecting back on our business practices and policies, such as our mission, vision, and core values, our customer service as they're coming through the door, is it meeting their needs? And also our registration process. Are we doing it as simple as we can? Or is it helpful for the community? Can they navigate our registration system and things of that sort? So how do we achieve this? So who's involved is all of the SCA employees. So we have full-time employees. We have 4 full-time employees under a director, and we have several part-time employees. Coming together, the full-time employees would take the main stance on this project with the support of the part-time employees. The connection with City Hall is a must. We would be working very closely with the economics department, along with the mayor's department. And then obviously the community. Now, how can we achieve this? So we are really looking through ways to communicate, also surveys. Surveys really have a great lead in this project because it's a lot of feedback that we're looking for, just to make sure that we are in line and providing them with what they need. Data analysis. So by sending, if it's emails in a more efficient way, maybe double checking to see how many people have opened the emails, or if they clicked the link that was inside, so that we can know if we are actually putting forth our effort in a way that the community needs, that or if we need to pull away and focus elsewhere. Having community meetings. We do have an established community life committee that we seek opinions from, but also having open meetings and more of a conversation like a town hall, and then offering opportunities for people to start getting involved in the Art Center, like programming events, these meetings and things of that sort. And how can you achieve this? Well, we can look into survey systems. Now, being through a government entity, there are a couple different survey systems, like SurveyMonkey, that we can utilize as a free aspect. There's also an opportunity for us to get a website update where it's kind of showing who's looking at what's getting the views, what's getting the clicks, what's not. Also, optimizing our search on the internet and just getting more people as they're going to the internet searching for us, but making sure that we're providing the right content, and then tracking our analytics. So seeing how things fluctuate, if they go up, if they go down, if our Facebook posts are getting more likes and more traffic than our email blasts, then maybe taking a look at those. When and where can we achieve this? So I think that one of the greatest points is going to community events and offering a survey. They could be written or even on an iPad. If someone is unable to do it on their own, offering someone that could be able to assist them. Also using our space, Solon Center for the Arts, where a lot of this would be taking place. It could happen in person or online. I know that the internet is not accessible to all, or it causes more trouble to some more than others. So making that accessible to everyone, and then just really holding on to those digital records that we can access them from anyone's computer, also have a backup through the city, and then being able to have those through archives to reflect on. So what does this project look like? So on a weekly basis, there's going to be data entries and updates, a lot of reflection on what we're doing. And then the bi-weekly staff meetings are already established, but just taking those 5 to 10 minutes, talking about what we're doing, if we're creating new programming or new events, we're reviewing what that looks like. Was it successful? Was it not successful? How many attendees did we have? How many were we expecting? Analyzing if what we're doing is if we're on the right track or if we need to start over. And then obviously our communication aspect. Do we need to send out an email to touch base with them? Quarterly surveys, and that provides time for the community engagement and planning to see what the next steps are. So first off, starting with that communication, we want to know where they're getting the information, how we can communicate better, and then making that connection. What is that next step? Like quarterly community meetings where there's open conversations about specific agendas to receive feedback and brainstorm together. And then quarterly program assessments. Like I said, reviewing enrollment and participation, see what works, what doesn't work, if the community is looking for something different. Event surveying, so that's providing surveys at event pertaining to the quarterly focus. So if we feel like we're in a good spot with our communications, and then maybe that next survey that goes out is more focused on programs or events, or maybe asking for their feedback if they liked the steps that we took. And then tri-annually, we're assessing the best way to release communication for new information. We're updating our offerings. We're providing run our programming alter a winter, spring, and then a summer basis. And then circling back yearly, just assessing the annual strengths and weaknesses. What are we planning on for the futures to improve? Decide if there's budgetary needs after, and if there's a direct impact the efforts are having. So in conclusion, as we're working as a team to restore the arts in the city, I'm just taking a couple of quotes from our mayor, Edward Kress, and these are his two favorites. There is no I in team and service over self. So providing what the community needs and trying to match them there, and most importantly, working as a team. I want to thank you so much for your time today. And also, I just wanted to plug in some of our websites and social media so you guys can also enjoy the information and the programming that we're providing. Thank you.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. Thank you, Allison. I think it's a great presentation, a very comprehensive. My question is, how far along on the implementation? Like, where is this at right now of putting all this stuff into action, or what's the timeline for that?
So it's pretty exciting as we head into the new year. We're looking to start it in 2023. But also we were very blessed because recently the city was just granted a communications position through the mayor's office. So we're looking to see how we can combine both of those together and start the initiative for this first year-long process. Obviously with a bunch of feedback, and as the community changes, this might be something that evolves year to year with very different outcomes.
When I was working with the library systems, they've invited us to come in and hold different events or rooms or whatever. Is there any like rental fees or other fees associated to get more involved in your particular building? Like, can you hold events, or can we talk about that? Like, how does that work if somebody wants to come in and do things there?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on what we're looking for and what the organization is looking for, whoever's interested in renting, we do rent the space. We have obviously the classrooms available to rent and also the gallery. We do have a 205-person theater upstairs, which is like a hidden gem to us. But we also work in collaboration with a lot of organizations. So if they want to hold an event there, we'll help support them. Like this upcoming year in 2023, we're holding a Lunar New Year event with some local organizations. So it's just depending on what we're looking for and our capabilities.
And then my last question is, it sounds like you have all these different tools at your disposal to kind of increase the communication and programming. What is going to be some measures, outcome measures, or measuring the impact of this? Like, what are you going to look for to see if you're on the right track?
That's a great question. So a lot of our programming is done through a database, so we can see the participation in those. So those numbers to see if we are getting the participation that we are hoping for in these new programs. Sometimes it takes a couple rounds just to get the word out and to make people more aware. Also with the social media aspect, if that is the way of the communication is preferred, there's a lot of analytics that Facebook does offer for free, in addition to some emailing systems like MailChimp or Constant Contact. They kind of show you how many people have opened, how many people subscribed or unsubscribed, if they're clicking. So basically starting from zero, because we don't have any of this. So we're working on the up and up. And that's why it's a lot of trial and error, seeing if these efforts are working or not, because we haven't done anything in 20 years to advance this communication or this connection.
Well, my last comment is maybe you might want to check in with the Rocky River Public Library with their project that they just presented, because maybe that segmented email plan might work for you all too. So anyway, I'm gonna zip it, and because I know we're on a tight schedule, I want to pass the baton over to Alexandra.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, again, excellent job, Allison. The arts are such an important part of, any community, and you all at Solon do such amazing works. I'm really excited to see how this project will unfold. So we do have a couple questions, and obviously some kudos too. So just in the interest of time, I'm not going to read all of the comments of praise, so you can make sure you take some time to read those, because you did a really great job. But our first question comes from Tom. Tom asks, how will you know if your project is successful, or how is this measured?
Sure. I feel like that's kind of very similar to what Rob asked, but again, just circling back, because I do want to be able to make that connection with the community. Like I said, we're starting kind of from zero. So right now we have what our numbers have been in the past with enrollment. We've never tracked analytics before. So I think from here, we're starting with nothing. And as we're going through, we can see how those numbers increase or decrease as we start implementing some emails or some social media aspects. It's a project that is going to be really hands-on to start, but I think once we find our groove, we'll be able to tell a little bit more if by month number 4 that the email opens went down or if they went up. So thanks.
Great. So our next question comes from Kristen. She says, great presentation, Allison, very well organized. As your project peer team member, it's been great to see your project coming together. This is before I actually ask the question. For those of you who might sort of be in the dark and don't know what Kristen is referring to, especially if you have not gone through the process, what we do is shortly after folks submit their project topics, early on into the cohort, so after they receive approval and submit their project topics formally, we actually pair them up with 1 or 2 fellow cohort members, and then that is like kind of your buddy system throughout the course of the year, just to kind of share your project and receive feedback throughout. So just wanted to let those know in the audience who weren't familiar with that. So her question is, what support have you received from leadership or coworkers to help with implementation of this project? Have you faced any opposition as you've rolled this out to others at the city?
So with the support from leadership has been really great. As I've been going back and bouncing some ideas off of them, they have really supported me all the way through. It's something that obviously we haven't had, and now in 2020, everything has been getting mainstreamed a lot more. So it's obviously a need. A little hesitation just because this is something new, but it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. It's what other people are doing. So a lot of communication is going to be needed. But I'm very excited to start. Like I said, a lot of trial and error, but that's how we learn. And hopefully this is going to push us forward and just make us better for our community.
Excellent. One final question, and before I ask the final question, Allison, too, before we kick you off as an attendee, I just want to make sure that you see the comment in the chat from Chanel about she's willing to share that information with you. So I love it. Yeah, and hopefully you all can stay connected too after Public Management Academy officially ends today. So Christine says, has the pandemic affected your project in any way? And I think this is a great question.
Yes. So as we see less and less people come through the door, where efforts in such as posters and flyers kind of don't hit home anymore. So the pandemic has really steered us to the more technology and electronic aspect. So it has started some pathways for us that we necessarily are a little unfamiliar with, but we are gonna go ahead and learn as we go. But I also feel like taking that technology aspect, it's going to reach a lot more people where we can provide that information and get it to them in a timely manner. So I think it's gonna advance us a lot. The pandemic definitely shook a lot of things up. And it definitely dropped our enrollment a lot. So we're just trying to rebuild and people in the city. So thanks.
Thanks, Allison. I'll see you tomorrow at leadership. Great job.
Thanks.
All right, well, we are literally rounding third and heading home. We're halfway through, I guess, or maybe we're at second base instead of third base, but we are halfway through. Bring up our next presenter, who is Danielle Romanowski. And Danielle is with the Village of South Russell. I'm excited to hear about her presentation because I'm a big accountability person and also planning perspective here, and just on a financial side. And Danielle is going to talk about how she's going to implement a 5-year financial forecasting plan for the Village of South Russell. So Danielle, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Romanowski, and I have been fiscal officer for the Village of South Russell for the past 16 years. South Russell is a 4-square-mile bedroom community located in Geauga County, and we have just under 4,000 residents. As the fiscal officer of a small community, my responsibilities is everything administrative. So I do the finances, clerk of council, tax administrator, human resources, payroll, cemetery, everything kind of falls in my office. But in a village, all of our revenue pretty much comes from tax collections. And without the money, at the end of the day, nothing else happens, right? You can't plow the roads, you can't buy equipment, you can't do anything if you don't have employees showing up. And I don't think they're going to show up if you're not paying them. So really, at the end of the day, everything comes down to the money. So what do you do when your funding is threatened to be cut off? This was a real possibility the village faced in 2021, and it was pretty serious. Let me give you a quick overview about government accounting and how we got to the point of having our revenue collections threatened. Government finances are different than the private sector because we're dealing with taxpayer money. There's checks and balances at all levels of finances. Under the Ohio Revised Code, the County Budget Commission, who's made up of the county auditor, the county treasurer, and the county prosecutor, they oversee the revenue for the entities within the county. In our county, our budget commission members, the county treasurer and county prosecutor are also South Russell Village residents. So they have a particular interest in everything we do, and they watch us closely. It's their responsibility to make sure that, in fact, the need for the tax revenue imposed on the residents is what it should be. If an entity has growing cash balances and they don't have a plan for those funds, the county can deny your levy collections. So in other words, you can't save or hoard money or save what some people call a rainy day fund. You have to have a legitimate legal reason for the money you have. So the finance process starts in January. At the end of the year, everybody has to submit your year-end cash balances to the county auditor's office. And then you submit a report to the county auditor, and then he certifies what your balances are. Then you take what your balances were at the end of year one or at the end of the year, and then what revenue you think you're going to get in with tax levies and your other revenue, and then you know how much you're going to spend at the end of the year. Or at least that you'll have the money to cover what you want to spend for that year. So in December of 2010, our carryover cash balance was $1,583,000. And then over the years in 2012, we increased the income tax rate, and then we put another property tax levy on for our roads and bridges. And then we did have fiscally responsible elected officials. So our carryover cash balance at the end of 2020 was $3,266,000. Well, with the growing cash balances that had the attention of our county budget commission, especially since, if you remember, 2 of those commission members live in the village, so they watch what we do. And they were questioning why the village was saving money. The village had explained that we had projects on the horizon, but they weren't getting done. So the budget commission started questioning, were they in fact real projects, or was the budget, was the village just budgeting things they weren't really planning to do? So you have that part of it. And then a community neighborhood comes forward and says they've heard in the council meetings the village has all this money. So they asked the village to give them money, a loan for a dam project in their neighborhood. Well, we have new elected officials that really didn't quite understand government finances and the restrictions you have. And so they started discussing whether we were going to be able to loan this neighborhood money. Well, when you take all these separate things with the growing cash balances and talking about loaning out money and budgeting for all these projects that never seem to be getting done, the county budget commission was pretty much at their end. So at the August 21 tax budget hearing, everything kind of erupted. The village's tax budget hearing before the commission, which usually lasts less than 5 minutes, and we get a kudos and get sent on our way, ended up going on for over 50 minutes. There was a lot of unpleasant, heated questions about our balances and our projects. And the biggest thing they were concerned about was all this talk about loaning money. See, the money the village has is taxpayer money, so it has to benefit all the residents, not be loaning money. We're not a bank. The budget commission questioned if we have the funds available that we're considering loaning money, then possibly we don't need our tax levies. So they considered denying our budget at that meeting. But as fiscal officer, I knew we needed the money, and I knew that we had projects, but that people weren't following through to get the projects done. So I pled my arguments to the commission and asked them if they would consider giving us more time to put something together. They did agree to postpone the vote that day, and they scheduled a second hearing for us the following week and gave us an opportunity to present something differently. So while I knew we needed the money, I had to find a way to formally present this to the budget commission for any hopes of getting these tax levies approved. The budget commission was doing their job because they're ensuring there's proper use of taxpayer money. And as a county resident, I'm happy that they look after our money, but I also knew they were reasonable people, and that I felt if I could show them that we did in fact have projects that were in the works and the money was needed, that they would consider passing our budget. So we had to put everything together, pass legislation. We had a special council meeting, council passed legislation, which is actually a law. And in there, they stated what they were going to do and what they promised to get completed by the following year's tax budget hearing. So we went to our second budget hearing that year, and the budget commission members were pretty skeptical. They didn't think we could get all done, but they did agree to accept it and pass our tax budget as we had submitted it. And but they promised that if we didn't complete these jobs by the following year, they would suspend some of our revenue collections. When we went to the budget commission in 22, before we went there, I did write the letter to the budget commission members, just kind of giving them a heads up to let them know the village did everything that they promised to do. They did all the big projects, and they were actually working on an additional project. So I wanted them to understand that they did take it seriously, and we did, in essence, spend our money for what we said we were going to be spending it for. So while the 2021 tax budget hearing was embarrassing, especially since it made the newspaper, and we're just little South Russell, so being in the newspaper was a big deal. It was a learning opportunity for the officials now about our growing cash balances and about proper use of government funds. We can't give loans. But now, unfortunately, now the officials are moving in the opposite direction. No one wants to go to another tax budget hearing and be embarrassed. So now they're kind of leaning towards it. Well, let's spend it. We have it. We need to spend it. What I need officials to understand is that it's okay to have carryover cash balances, but you have to have a plan that you can show the tax budget commission, the residents, the public, what your plan is for that money. For example, we have a road program expected to take place in 24-25, and it's estimated at $1.5 million. Now there's different mechanisms in place that we can use to quote, save money for these projects, but we can also develop a 5-year forecast to show on paper what it is we want to spend when. So here's my SWOT analysis. The village's annual budget appropriations are in compliance and do not exceed our resources. So what this really means is that what we're putting in our budget, we will have the funds available to cover those expenses. And now that village officials understand the budgeting process a little bit better, they're aware that changes need to be made. And we do have strong cash balances. Another strength is I did get their approval to do a 5-year forecast, which was required by this class. So they all are on the same page now. Weaknesses are that we currently have poor communication regarding budget changes that result in last-minute action. There's no forward-looking plan to evaluate when we're going to need money for what. And sometimes they may not always act in the best interest of the village overall. We get the we have the money mindset, which I think can hurt the village down the road. Now they want to spend all that money so we don't have the cash balances, but we are going to need the money at some point for that road program or other large purchases. Our opportunities are preparing a 5-year financial forecast would use our projected appropriations, which are your expenses, and map out the revenues that would be needed to approve through the tax budget process. We could set up reserve funds, which is a way of allowing you to save money for big ticket projects and purchases, and it allows for transparency with the Budget Commission and the residents. It would give insight into what the cash balances would be, and it would allow for sound investment strategies to know when cash will be needed to pay for expenses and when money can be invested to earn the village more money and interest. Threats are that without a written plan to account for why money is needed, the Budget Commission could choose not to approve our tax budget. They could suspend levy collections, or they can deny future levies. By not looking forward to the future, the village doesn't know when cash will be needed. If they invest the money to earn more interest, but we need the cash to pay for a project, we risk our liquidity if you don't have a forward-looking plan. So the purpose and goal of this project is to create a financial forecast for the village. It will require better communication from all officials to clarify their wants and needs moving forward and offer greater transparency to the public and the Oversight Commission. Forecasting for the longer term will offer insight into will there be enough funds available, or will the projected plan, will it need to be amended due to budget constrictions, or will we have to find additional funding sources? A 5-year forecast would allow the village to put a plan to paper for the next 5 years, looking at both revenues and expenses. For example, we have this road program. Will we have the funds necessary at the time? Do we have the funding sources in place? Or are we going to have to push it out to get the money? 5-year forecast would allow officials to put a plan not only for projects, but also for their capital expenses like village and vehicle and equipment purchases and replacements. A 5-year forecast would map out your finances. It would give the village a plan going forward. It would indicate when and where the funding would be needed in the years to come. And then it would give us time to make adjustments if we needed to. Okay, so the village needs a 5-year forecast, but where do we start? I wanted to get a better understanding of how many communities actually do a multi-year forecast. I wanted to know if staffing or budget played a role into who does a 5-year forecast. And finally, I wanted to know if other communities would be willing to share their forecasts with me so I can use them as samples in preparing ours. So my survey questions were, what is your population? How many employees in your finance department? What's your annual revenue, expenses? Do you prepare for 1 year or multiple year? And if you prepare for multiple years, is it a strong budget or is it a forecast? And for how many years? So not only did I get advice from fellow classmates, I will say, it never ceases to amaze me how many helpful community officials there are that really help one another. They share ideas and coach people along. So I started looking at Geauga County. There's 21 other residential communities in our county, and I reached out to 16 of them, and I received replies from 7. So that's a 44% response rate from those. And of those 7, 4 do a 5-year forecast. So that's 58% did a 5-year forecast. And one of those people sent me their forecast, which I can use now as a sample. Then I sent out 106 surveys around the state. I sent to mostly villages because we are a village, but I did send some to 4 cities because I thought cities would have a greater staffing and would possibly have a better chance that they would do a longer term forecast. Of the 106 communities I surveyed, 28 responses, so that's 27% response rate, and 43% of those who responded from that did a 5-year forecast. So on this chart, the green bar shows the response rate of who the surveys, who sent the surveys, and the blue bar show the percentage that do a 5-year forecast. So of the 127 surveys, 35 responses, I got 28 response rates. So I think that for an unsolicited external survey sent outside of our municipality, I felt that that was a pretty good response rate. And of those 35 responses, 16 actually did a long-term forecast. So that's 46%. So I think this proves the village is moving in the right direction with looking more long-term. Additional information I gathered was staffing levels that prepare a 5-year budget. 5 entities had 1 person in their finance department, 1 had 2, 5 had 3, and 5 had 4 more. Now, obviously, more staffing you have to assist with the process would make it easier. However, people with only 1 person in the office can in fact do this, so I should be able to do this. Another item of interest was the size of the budget for those that responded, but it isn't really a fair representation of an overall comparable. It was just offers information on the budget size of those that responded. The last piece and the biggest piece of valuable information I gained while doing my survey was 9 sample forecasts I got from people around the state. So some were simple spreadsheets, some had charts and graphs, some had verbal reports included. So while I don't believe my forecast will include all that the first year, those are definitely things I want to implement as we fine tune the process and figure out what we need and what works for us. In reviewing the samples given to me, it's kind of a wake-up moment. I do a budget worksheet for myself. It's not what council actually adopts. It's an internal report. So when I saw what they were sending me, I realized I can use my current budget worksheet, which is what you see here in the orange, and then just extrapolate it out 5 years, which is shown in the green, and then input my capital expenses, the larger ticket items we know that are coming, and then the regular items we would just insert with the inflation assumption. So it really doesn't have to be too difficult. So for 2023, the timeline of action items in the process, it's going to be distributed to all department heads and elected officials in January, so they know what the timeline is for the coming year and what's going to be due when. In the first quarter, the department heads will update their replacement schedules, and then they will get those to me, and I will, starting right away in January, start putting this forecast together by inserting the information they gave me. Then during the second quarter of the year, I will meet with the respective department committee and the department head, and we're going to go through and review their replacement schedule and talk about any big purchases or thing they see coming down the horizon. Then those will go back and update that budget worksheet. Then the finance committee and I will meet to review what the wants are and is there money in place for it? Can we afford it, or do we need to start looking for other budgeting, other finance? And then that would be a tax budget time. So then the tax budget would be prepared from that and submitted to the county in July. Then in the third quarter, the department heads will work with their committees, and they're going to decide what their budget asks are for the next year. And they'll get that to me by September 30th. And then I'll take those asks, I'll put them in the budget worksheet, and that will get shared with the department heads and all the elected officials. And then we start the annual budget work session process. And then from there, whatever the outcomes of that meeting are, those will also get inserted into the budget worksheets. Now, the annual appropriation budget work session, sometimes it's days of like 3 evenings of 6 hours where they just fight everything out. So I'm hoping by making this a living document and talking it throughout the year, things will run more smoothly, and with better communication, everybody should be on the same page, at least understanding what the wants are. And then the October budget meeting, they can, that's when they'll decide what can stay in and what doesn't stay in. Well, I'd like to make it a living document that everybody works on throughout the year. As for continuous improvement, at the end of the year, we can evaluate what worked, what didn't work, how can the process be improved, should the charts and graphs be added, and so what do we want them to show, what information should be reflected, and what information would be most helpful. Additionally, once the new process has gone over and tweaked, can we modify it deeper over time to figure out what our cash flows are on a monthly basis? I think as we get this started, we can definitely improve it over time. And then finally, we would put it on the website so we can offer transparency to the residents, the county budget commission, anybody who wants to know about the village finances will be able to see it, because really where you spend your money is where your priorities are. So by posting that, it will open up maybe a discussion. People can see what the villages, the elected officials think the priorities are. The projected outcomes are to create to have open communication among village officials, have a living document that we will all work on throughout the year, which will form a clear strategy and timeline for future expenses. It would alleviate last-minute unplanned purchases. It would make sure that we have the funding in place at the time we need it to cover projected expenses. Again, greater transparency to the public and to the Budget Commission and the auditors. And then the Budget Commission, they'll be able to see a full 5-year look ahead. So when they do consider our our tax budget, they will know what our plans are, and they can vote on that with more, they would be more educated when they voted on our tax budget to know that we truly do have a need and a plan for the money we have. Any questions? I know it's a long, boring subject to some, but it's my world.
I totally disagree with you. Like, this is one of my favorite projects because every department, no matter what you do, you always have to involve a budget and finances. It's key. It's like, it's the lifeblood of an organization. And I can't tell you how I really appreciate how thorough you went, and not just the 5-year concept, but like the detail as far as, I think it's informative to me, and I bet you was for your employees on the fact of what you can and can't do. Also, like, it sounds to me like if you were not spending, your money or having this carry forward, I think there's probably some educational purposes of it, as far as like, what are we allowed to do and what should we be doing and how do we, effectively and efficiently manage the resources of that community. So to me, it's just not, it's not boring, it's exciting, and it's also really needed. It's a necessary tool. I'm trying to get more of that at CSU as far as our center and working with our fiscal officer and on other ways to manage programs on a monthly basis, and then having the quarterly budgets and meetings like that so that we know we're on track. I think to me, the biggest deal is like having the surprise at the end of the year of like, oh, well, we're under or we're over, or now what are we going to do? And you really shouldn't need that. You shouldn't have that. And to me, this is really the core of what Public Management Academy is all about using these tools and trying to be a good steward of the community's money. And ultimately what it does is it does another way of gaining trust and confidence from the community that, yeah, you have your act together, you have a game plan, and you're not just being reactive but proactive. And what does your organization do. So I just want to give you kudos for taking that leap into the deep end of the swimming pool, because just as your report stated, not everyone's doing this. So, you know, I appreciate the fact that you wanted to go the extra mile. So I don't really have any questions. I think it's awesome. That's all I have to say. I'm going to pass the baton over to Alexander to see if there's any feedback from the audience. So Alex, yeah.
Yes, I agree with Rob. Fantastic job, Danielle. And this was just so well organized too. And I am not a finance person, but I found it really interesting and very easy to understand. So thank you for breaking it down, and best of luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple questions coming through, and just a reminder to our audience members to please continue asking questions. I'm gonna mostly just leave the comments in the chat and just look at the questions because we have quite a few coming in. So Kristen Hall asks 2 questions. The first is, what is a bedroom community?
It's mostly households. It's mostly houses, and we have a very little business district. We're only 4 square miles, and I think just a lot of small businesses. We're not like a Parma where you would have a lot of big business or independents. It's mostly residential homes with just a few businesses.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. I'm sure there were others in the audience who were wondering the same thing. She also, you know, says, you know, great job. And she asks if you would be willing to share your slides. And I'm sure others might be thinking the same thing. Kristen says there was a lot of good information that she knows would help her with her annual budgeting process.
Sure, I'll send it out.
Awesome. And let us know if you ever need any help connecting with your classmates.
Okay.
Tom asks, are you planning on having council adopt a formal policy requiring this financial forecast?
I hadn't thought of that, Tom, but I do like that because I'm a big supporter of policies, because, you know, your elected officials change. But so to have a policy, I think that is a really good idea. So I appreciate that. So yes, I will look into that.
Great, thank you. Kat wants to know if the survey and research portion of Public Management Academy influenced your project. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about doing a survey until we had that class on that, but it was helpful because there were questions. I always thought it's just me in the office. How can I do this 5-year budget? I have all these other things to do, but then it made me start thinking, well, do other people do it? You know, and if other people with just one person in the office can do it, then I should be able to do it. So that, and then the fact of using that way, using the survey to reach out to all these people and then being able to ask for their samples. So now I have 9 different ones that I can go through and kind of see how they did it and what would work for us and not work.
Wonderful. Glad it was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Ray asks, what might be a contingency for the 5-year projection if something drastically changes or if the budget happens not to be approved down the road?
Well, that's why I think in the past, when we had talked about this internally at the village, we always talked about it as a 5-year budget. And when I started this class, I was saying a 5-year budget. And Tom was the one who messaged me and he said, are you sure you want a 5-year budget or do you want a 5-year forecast? And just by him saying that, it's like you just get stuck in one way and then it just, the light bulb went off. And I go, it doesn't have to be a strict budget. Our purpose is really just to know, look forward, should we be spending the money now on this, or is this other thing coming up in 2 years more important? So I think using it more of a forecast than a budget is what would work best for us. And that's really in my survey what I found out from most everybody. I think there was only one that kind of had it as a strict budget. And then that way, if it's just a forecast, you can change it and you are able to amend your appropriations budget with the county as you go, but you try not to. And I feel in our village, sometimes we're always amending, where if we had better planning, we wouldn't have to be amending.
Excellent, thank you. And Professor Bowen, who is one of our OCPM advisory board members and a great supporter of this program and just all of our programs at the center, also would like a copy of the slides. So we'll make sure that we connect you all. We'll probably need some reminders.
Okay.
Excellent. Mayor Gallagher asks a really great question. So how have employees working from home impacted your budget? Can you talk a little bit about that?
No one worked from home.
There we go.
Small. There's 26 employees, so it was, I mean, 14 of those are a police department. So during the pandemic, nobody worked from home. I could have, but I also felt everybody else was at work, then I should be at work, and I was in a building basically by myself, so we didn't have any of that.
Easy answer. All right. Looks like we have 2 more questions. So again, Christine just says, wonderful, thorough presentation. You mentioned that newly elected officials don't always understand how government financial processes work. How will you explain the 5-year budget process to them? And do they receive any other training?
I did try to meet with them and explain it. We did have a big talk, you know, like I said, the whole thing with the budget commission opened everyone's eyes. So that started the conversation. So now we've gone through this. And then when this is done, I will give them the presentation and the report so they understand that. And something else I wanted to do for the last couple of years, but I haven't done it. But I think in 23, I'm making it a goal for myself to put together a presentation similar to this that explains government finances and how it works and how we have all these different funds and you can only spend out of each fund for this. I do sit down with each new council member when they come in and try to explain it, but it's a lot that they're learning at that time. So maybe more partway through the year. And then maybe if I put together a presentation that they can watch on their own time, or our old mayor would have us do a presentation before a council meeting and explain things to them. I think that would be helpful.
Before I get to our last question, I want to backtrack and apologize. So I'm going to backtrack to Mayor Gallagher's question. She sent in a slight clarification, and I apologize for not interpreting the question correctly. So Mayor Gallagher meant residents working from home and not in their office. So going back to the work from home question.
How that has affected us, that has affected, because we are a bedroom community, which is mostly homes. And it's a very affluent community. Our income tax collections are up significantly because, you know, you pay income taxes where you physically work. So if they're working from home, the village is collecting those income taxes. So our income tax collections have gone up significantly. And we think it's going to stay that way, which we feel bad for I mean, honestly, I do, as a government employee that understands finances, I feel bad for the big cities like the Cleveland, those people, they're not collecting the income taxes for those people that are working at home. But for the village's perspective, we are well above what we anticipated.
And last but certainly not least, Molly just would like for you to clarify on how this plan will be made available to community members.
Well, all our meetings are open, you know, and so the timeline will be shared with the elected officials and department heads in January. And then I think working through the process, all meetings of committees and council are open to the public. So anybody's open to come and see what's going on. And then at the end of the year, when we have it, and it's kind of have the whole thing completed, then I would like to put it online on our website so that the community could see what the village is budgeting for. Because like I said before, you're going to put your money where your priorities are. And then I'm sure the residents would like to know what the village officials feel their priorities are. So.
Excellent. And that is our time today for Danielle. So Danielle, thank you so much for presenting and great job with your project.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful job. In fact, we're thinking about this newly elected officials training and providing additional sessions for folks. So I wrote down your name. I think I'm going to call you to see if you'd be willing to facilitate a workshop for us down the road. So I might be harassing you forever. Because you can't, once you're in CPM, you're in Hotel California, so you can come, but you can never leave. So there's gonna be some other things down the road. Well, anyway, great job, Danielle. Happy holidays to you and the rest of the team, and Mayor, tell Mayor Coons I said hello.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're moving on to our next presentation. We have two more presentation, and we have two groups. This next one is from the city of Brooklyn, and it's going to be Mayor Gallagher and Tom Raguse, and they are talking about a very contemporary issue, and that is onboarding for their staff. And in these times when we're seeing in the public sector a lot of the great resignation and the baby boomer retirement and the silver tsunami. So they have tackled the issue of how to use the onboarding process as a tool to attract and retain employees at the city of Brooklyn. So without further ado, I want to pass the baton over to them, to Katie and to Tom. So I'm not sure which one of you is actually presenting the PowerPoint, but take it away. Oh, cool. Nice to see you both there.
Good morning.
Good morning. I see you both, but I don't see your presentation as of yet. I'm sure you're pulling it up. All righty. Looks like it's starting to fire up here. You're good to go. Okay, well, take it away. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, everyone. Nice presentation so far. Thank you for having us. I apologize in advance. Tom and I both have a cold, so if we cough our way through this, we're sorry. But again, I'm Mayor Katie Gallagher. I've been in this role for the city of Brooklyn for the last 7 years. And then prior to that, I was on city council for 4 years.
And I'm Tom Raguse. I'm the Deputy City Administrator Finance Director, and I've been with the city for almost 4.5 years. So as we started this project presentation, a couple of things I wanted to mention off the beginning is that this is a topic, the employee onboarding process, that the mayor and I have talked about in passing for the last few years. And this class, this cohort gave us an avenue to improve upon our non-existent process that we have. And also, as we've all have heard of and been dealing with recruiting issues nationwide, we thought that this was a perfect time for this project. So as a little bit of an overview for the city of Brooklyn, we have approximately 11,000 residents, 4.6 square miles, about 106 employees on a full-time basis, give or take, on any given day. We offer our basic city services, our core services, public safety, police and fire. That's the majority of our general fund budget. We also have a service department that concentrates on garbage collection, street improvements, overseeing our road program, as well as snow plowing. And we also have a recreational and senior center activities that are separate at the time. So top 4 benefits of a better onboarding process. Improve job performance. When an employee understands what their expectations are as they go into a new job, it improves their job performance and also reduces stress. So one of the most stressful times of a person is when they switch jobs, go to a new organization, trying to understand the culture, trying to understand the job duties and functions. So it reduces stress. That also leads to better retention long-term employees, and also ultimately leads to increased employee satisfaction as the employee spends time getting to know the organization and communicate it to them, what the vision goals of the organization is, as well as the job functions are. It leads into increased employee satisfaction, which ultimately leads to a better organization. So as we set out on this project, we distinguished 3 goals that we had in doing this project. The first is recruiting. So as I mentioned, we all know the great resignation, recruitment being an issue nationwide. How do we make the application process the easiest for a person to apply? If the application process is difficult or a little bit cumbersome, it may influence the potential applicant not to apply for the position. And then once when they're in the organization, how do we develop them in their current role? So giving the employees tools to understand the role, increasing their engagement, and having the employees understand what the organization's overall mission, vision, and goals are leads to a better development of employees. And ultimately, all that increases the chances of developing future leaders as current leaders retire or may go to another organization for another opportunity. Having that bench is very key as far as trying to minimize any issues with leadership turnover, and having that bench with employees who are able to take over the leadership positions and opportunities that are given to them leads to a better organization overall. So as at the beginning stages of this project, we did a SWOT analysis. So some of the strengths that we identified: dedication, having the CEO and the CFO part of this, spearheading this, and we are dedicated to executing this project. We have a culture that it's a smaller organization. There's very little red tape. We're pretty fluid, and we have the culture in place to be able to implement this. And also having us, as well as the other managers and directors and chiefs on board, helped in this. Weaknesses, one current weakness that we identified: no current consistent practice. That obviously we want to make a systematic process in this. Excuse me. Some opportunities we identified: our ability to revamp the process and make it our own. We have new employee training that we offer on an annual basis to new employees of the organization that we can capitalize on the existing training and enhance on that. We've received new employee feedback and also feedback from directors and chiefs as far as what they may be doing within their departments as far as onboarding new employees. And we are also able to reach out to our network for best practices of what other organizations, what other cities in the county or peer organizations are doing in relation to this. Threats, we didn't identify any threats, which is always good. So this was a project that we identified that is very important and also very doable. Two key points that we identified as far as why we decided to go forward with this project. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the mayor. She'll talk about what the other stuff that we've done and also the outcomes.
I think Tom already capitalized on this a little bit with our opportunities and our SWOT analysis. But we did have a 1-year new employee training. We offered that 1 year, but say that person was hired a month earlier, it could be 11 months before they were in this new employee training. So looking back at this, there was some timeliness. We want to make sure that our new process engages people right from day one and has a long-term plan. So we took that, we went back and we did a survey and did informational interviews with all the employees that were recently hired. And we said, like, what were the things that were very helpful for you? What things do you wish that you knew going on? And that was very helpful to hear from those employees to know what would have made them more successful in their current roles. Also talking to our managers and directors and talking about their current process in place. And they each had their own individual process. Some things are unique to the departments, especially in safety forces. But however, the overall arching thing is we want to make sure that we do have a plan, even if there's some deviations per department, that there's a plan to follow, making sure that each employee has 5 of the consistent things going forward and they're in the best place possible. We also researched best practices, looking at what are those things on the outside that people are recommending for this and onboarding, and looking at what the benefit is long-term and really putting those into place in our research and our document. And then lastly, asking our peer communities, seeing who's doing it right already, or seeing what they find helpful and getting those suggestions, and trying not to reinvent the wheel if someone's doing something better than we are. So again, we identified those 3 issues is recruiting employees, developing employees, and training employees to be leaders. So that first prong is recruitment. So we were looking at, well, how does an employee look and find Brooklyn, and why would they come here? And making sure it's easy for them, whether it's a full-time employee or a part-time employee. And so we took a look at our website. If we were somebody looking at the city of Brooklyn, what are we seeing? And what do you understand when you look at our website and understand our organization? So first, one, making sure that we have all this information available on our website. And this information is easily accessible. First, a streamlined application process that's electronic. The person can fill it out right there online and know where to send it via email. Second, one of the things that we learned from our new employees is that healthcare benefits was something that they were a little bit confused on. So whether that's because this is their first time having a full-time job and they've never had healthcare benefits and they don't really know where to go from here, or whether it's their spouse does this stuff and they're handling the healthcare benefits. So they're just passing the information along, making sure this is all accessible on our website. So a really high level overview of what our healthcare benefits, and also a detailed overview, having our healthcare broker provide a video. So new prospect employees know that we have a very good healthcare program and other benefits. Right now, as it's difficult to try to recruit employees in public service, we want to show what shows us apart, especially understanding what our salary scales are. So that again is on our website, available, easy access. And then once they're here, really developing employees, making sure that they feel welcome here, right away from day one, that they get a letter from their top chief or director out to the rest of the staff and welcome them to the team of their other 105 full-time employees. Each one of these departments, although they're separate, they touch each other in many different ways, and you meet employees along the way. And so making sure that they feel welcome here. One of the things we also heard from our interviews is that the things that were most helpful is really kind of understanding where our city buildings and the inside, what they look like. And the police department was doing a really nice job with that. But providing a tour to all the new employees, making sure their manager or chief or point person gives a day in the first week where they can walk them around the buildings, give a good understanding of what everything looks like, take them a drive around the city. To some, that's more important than others, but really kind of understanding the dynamics of the city, especially if they did not grow up here or are not from around here. Also, setting the expectations up front for the employees, reviewing job descriptions with their director or chief right away, making sure they understand, making sure that they don't have questions. They have a 90-day review of that. You're inundated with a lot of information that's not lost on us when you first start a job and you're learning everything. So 90 days later, we review this. How do you feel like you understand your job role, the expectations, or any questions? And then also during that first initial onboarding phase, within a week or a month, making sure that the employee is sitting down with myself and Tom and their director, and really understanding that we have bigger picture plans here, and that we do have a strategic plan and a master plan and a mission, vision, and goals that we want you to understand, because you're a part of that. You're part of that success, and making sure that they have that buy-in and feel empowered to produce results or create efficiencies or try to tackle one of those goals in the way that they can through their job. And then one more thing is, if they are part of the collective bargaining agreement staff, that they're able to sit down with one of their union reps, understand who their union rep is, and making sure that they understand their collective bargaining agreement, because if you don't know, that trumps our city policy manual when there's information that's different from that. And then that third prong is that leadership prong, right? So, they're well into their way, and we want to make sure they're successful. And the way that they can be successful is not only understanding their job, but making sure we understand what they want. out of this job. You know, for some that may be, you know, I just want to come to work and do my 40 hours a week, but some may say, I want to be the chief one day. I want to take over, and really providing them that long-term plan and understanding that, making sure we're providing them the training necessary, those leadership classes necessary, making sure that they have a mentor so they feel ingrained in the culture here. And really making sure that we set up some long-term goals. We want people to succeed here. I think ultimately, you know, we will look at this in a yearly basis, making sure that we're having continuous improvement for our process. Again, once we provide that consistency, it only works if you're looking at it once a year, knowing that the employees are getting what they need out of it. And so benchmarking, going back to those initial 4 things, are you know, is our retention rate good here? Are employees satisfied? And looking at those different metrics and making sure that we're accomplishing the goal with this project. So our success today, we've engaged directors, as Tom says. We have, you know, a lot of the online process done. We've had a medical benefits video, as I've already said, and then we've updated our website. So as you could see, we did add these things. If you go on our website, they're already launched. And so we have, again, like I said, the salary ranges, healthcare benefits, employee guidelines, job application. If you click down on some of this, the right hand is an example of that. This is a high level overview of what our medical plan is. So you could see right away what we offer. We're very competitive. It's one of the highlights of coming to a public community. But I would say overall, the most important is not only the recruitment of this, is if this time and effort spent up front will reduce the time and effort later on. It reduces discipline issues. It empowers employees to help improve our organization and the culture and the process and services. And finally, I think it improves their want to stay here. And onboarding people is an expensive process, but if we put that time and effort up front and that engagement up front, the likelihood of them wanting to stay here. If they leave because they have a better opportunity, that's fantastic for them. But if they do leave, we want them to come back and say, Brooklyn was a great place to work. I didn't leave because I didn't like the culture or the organization. I left for a better opportunity, but I would recommend it to anybody, and really getting that word of mouth out there that this is an organization worth coming to. So with that, thank you.
Sorry, it took me a second to hit the right button. I don't know. I hit the button like for 4,000 times in the last 2 years, but I still screw it up. So anyway, congratulations. This is, I think, one of the most contemporary issues that I hear on a daily basis from every organization about, you know, trying to attract and retain employees and kind of keep people and kind of, you know, I think I heard you kind of use the concept of equip and empower and kind of build them up. So I really say congratulations for making the effort from the top, you know, all the way through the system, that this is not just something you all come in, here's a quick tour of the facility, here's where the restrooms are, and now get to work. And so I really want to say thank you for investing in this, because I do think this is going to see some valuable results. What's the feedback from your current employees and those that are onboarding? Have you gone through the process with new employees on this yet?
So we have not gone through we've communicated with the directors as far as the status update is concerned. They're on board with it. We have not, we're rolling it out starting in January.
Okay.
So we're gonna, sorry, we're gonna communicate more on this. We've developed the checklist for the directors to utilize for the onboarding process. So we're going to push that out, and then we're going to start in January. This is the new process going forward.
Is there any thought about the current employees? So obviously the directors know that's coming on board, but are you going to do any kind of onboarding or retroactive training or engagement of the current employees that you have to kind of get them on board with this process as well?
Beyond our look back of the last 2 years, we've talked about engaging employees in a different way, not necessarily with the onboarding process, but more with individual groups on our strategic planning. What we saw is kind of a void right now is our director level and mid-level manager, director level. They understand what our strategic plan is. They understand goals outlined in our master plan, but we're not doing a good job of filtering that down. That's where we need to target with our current employees that have been on board for a while.
Mhm. That's great. One of the things, this has nothing to do with City Hall, but it's what I'm trying to do at CSU. For our students, for our academic students, I'm trying to create like a portfolio for them. So they have their academic programming, their competencies that they're working on, and then their opportunities. So you mentioned mentors, you mentioned like potentially looking down the road for other opportunities. Is there any kind of conversation about putting together some type of systematic approach to have a development plan for each person as they come through, saying, okay, well, you're in the service department, but we see you as taking on a leadership role in the next 3, 5, or whatever, 8 years, whatever. Is there conversations internally, or are you thinking about doing that kind of stuff so that people know that you're invested in them and their opportunities?
So the employees will have a work plan with regular check-in from the directors. And part of that check-in process will be long-term goals within the organization, as far as where do you see yourself in, 5 years from now within the organization, where do you want to be at? So those conversations will take place at those points.
Yeah, beyond what's going on right now, the chiefs and directors do have those conversations. They're more in an informal way, capitalizing on people's strengths and saying, you do a really nice job, but this is something you want to continue doing. But we're trying to make that more of a formal process. I think that when you put that in writing and you put the meetings on a schedule, that pushes that as a priority. And so go beyond those informal conversations and making sure that, where there's interest in people to grow and learn, that they're given that opportunity.
That's great. Well, I'm going to pass the baton over to Alexandra. If there's any other comments or questions, because I know we're all trying to get to lunch here eventually, and I keep on jibber jabber. So go ahead, Alexandra, take it away.
No, you're doing a great, Rob. We're okay on time, so I do appreciate that. First of all, fantastic job with the project. I think this is really wonderful and definitely something that other organizations and municipalities should kind of spend some time, looking at. So we do have some comments and questions in the chat. And I'm going to encourage audience members to continue sending in your questions because we don't have very many right now. So I'll also read some comments right now. So Chanel says, the Brooklyn City website is awesome. High praise coming from, someone who is, focused on the visual side of things. Awesome. And then Ray asks, so beyond the initial tour, 90-day work plan, etc., what are other developmental avenues available to employees? And should those be highlighted as a recruitment tool?
That's a good question. We, over the last few years, we have really put a focus on training development for our employees, especially the mid-level managers. And I think part of this process that needs to be communicated, that the organization stresses this. There's opportunities available to enhance your ability to perform your job, and also any leadership traits that you want to improve upon or want to focus on. And I think that needs to be communicated within that process, and we'll make sure that it does.
Yeah, and to Tom's credit, one of the things that he worked on was a tuition reimbursement policy. So we now give out a good chunk of money if people want to continue on their education and they find a path for that. It was one of those things right when he started in looking at making one of those suggestions. So it's been a slow process, but again, you think you get caught up in the day-to-day, issues here. This type of class makes you sit down and go, look, we've been talking about this. Let's go through this and make sure that we prioritize this as something that we're doing right now.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Yeah, if anything, with Public Management Academy, it just kind of gives you an excuse to either focus on your passion project or a project that you've been wanting to do, but just, haven't had the opportunity to actually sit down and devote some time and effort to. So that's great. It looks like Danielle says, I am looking at your employee related section of your website. This is something the village was just recently considering doing. Your website is great, and we can use this as a reference for ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Gallagher took the lead on that one.
Awesome. So Chief Jones says, I may have missed it because I stepped away, but do you have any specific recruitment strategies for women and minorities?
We do not right now, no.
Is that something maybe that you would focus on in terms of we often talk about continuous improvement, right? Is that something that, you think you might devote some time and attention to?
Yeah, I'm a big firm believer in incremental change. And I think that once we get this process up and rolling, from there you have continuous improvement, right? And so those are the things that you continue to add on and look at. We have a good training program. Diversity, equity, inclusion is getting added next year. So once you get a good system in place, those little additions to make it better and to have more well-rounded employees. So it's definitely something we can continue to look at. But I think the chief can appreciate this. I mean, we're having trouble recruiting period any employees. We had our last test, we had 6 police officers take our tests. So it's been difficult.
We're hearing that from so many organizations that we're working with, really in all of our programs. So yeah, it sounds like it's definitely an issue that a lot of organizations are dealing with right now. Great. I'm going to hold some space for any additional questions or comments, just because we do have a few more minutes. If not, we'll move on, but I just want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. All right, so it looks like no more questions or comments. So with that said, thank you again. Great
Thank
job.
you.
I hope you two feel better.
Every one of these projects has to do with the fact that we're trying to not only be more efficient, effective servants to our agency, but better servants to the community, whether it's saving money, whether it's protecting people, whether it's trying to expand services that you have there. Everybody in this cohort has done a fabulous job of trying to go above and beyond and kind of improve and excel and build, their toolkit personally, but also provide better services to the community. So on behalf of the community that you serve and on behalf of the state of Ohio and behalf of the Cleveland area, I just can't thank you enough for your commitment to the Public Management Academy and also for putting together some amazing projects. I'm a Christian. I celebrate Christmas, which will be next weekend. But to me, this is an early Christmas gift that you all gave to me personally, because I'm just a real geek on this stuff. And you all went above and beyond and did a great job. Just formally concludes our program. So PMA number 9 is officially in the books. Again, the papers are due on January 31st. If you have any questions, concerns, or want to review those with us, feel free to reach out to myself, Alexandra, Kat, or Nina if there's any questions or concerns, and we're happy to get that process. Again, just to how it works from here moving forward on the paper part. Once the papers are submitted to us, they are then reviewed and then distributed to our advisory team, which will evaluate and officially respond back with either any kind of revisions or approval. In addition to the written report, there will also be a transcript forwarded to you, which will show if there's any kind of outstanding assignments or classes that you might have. Please make sure that you complete all of those outstanding items, because it's a requirement to earn the CPM credential. So we will be in touch with you on that part as well. And then my last announcement is that if you do have any outstanding sessions that you need to make up, we have PMA number 10, which is currently in our first trimester. We're currently going through the first part there. So they're about ready to kind of talk about their project approval forms and identifying a topic. And then PMA number 11 starts on March 16th, 2023. So if there's any outstanding classes that you need to make up, please take a look at the Google form, which is available, which should have those scheduled classes available. And then also, if you have anybody within your community of practice, coworkers, supervisors, friends, that might be interested in attending PMA number 11. We're going to launch the campaign. The marketing campaign is going to be right at the beginning of the year. So when we come back from the holidays, I think it's going to be like the second week of January, we're going to launch the website. So you should see information about that coming soon. So I'm going to end last but not least to say thank you to our team. I can't tell you how much time and effort Alexandra, Nina, Kat, our entire team puts into this. It's a labor of love, and they go above and beyond the extra mile to make this a smooth and an excellent program and a great presentations for today. And so I just can't thank them enough for everything that they do on behalf of our team and in support of you. So Alexandra, Kat, and Nina, thank you so much for everything you've done. I want to wish everybody happy holidays. I hope you have a safe time, create some memories with your friends and families, and get a chance to rest up for an exciting 2023. That concludes our presentations. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and happy holidays. Bye-bye.